How's it going, guys? So I just wanted to make this quick tier list. I won't have too much time to record this. I'm about to go to work, so let's just get right into it. Today's drink is Dr. Tan's herbal tea. This shit slaps. If you haven't had it, I'd recommend it. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. First up is S tier. This starts with Mia. She's one of the best tanks, DPS, and healers. Basically, anyone in this tier list or in this S tier is really unique and can't really be substituted by anyone else. So no one else has blocks for like Mia. So she's one of the best. Best in raid. She's good in Dark Lord's Tower. She's great in territory, just all around. Great for all warrior farming teams. Next up is Ymir. She's one of the strongest mage damage dealers and supports. Not only does she has a strong burst skill, but her skill also provides the team a shield. So she's great for any hard bosses, territory, and in raid especially. And she's great for stun lock teams because she provides long skill duration. Yeah. Next up we have Yui. She's the strongest solo healer. Compared to like Aqua and some of the other healers, her heals are the strongest for solo targets, and so no one else can really fill that role. Then Lugrant. So she's a mage damage dealer that also has widespread team healing. So she's the newest character, and if you haven't seen my newest video on her, I would recommend watching that. But she basically is like a mage version of Mia, and so she's kind of invaluable in that sense. So next tier up is A tier. So these characters are really close to S tier, but just not as unique to me in my opinion. But it's kind of ordered. So first up we have Vivian, who in today's meta, moist meta, is very, very strong. Her heals, or she actually just creates shields for the team, and the more water characters you have on the team, the stronger her shield gets. So that's why she pairs well with characters like Ice, Aqua, Kayn with the water skin, and either Artemis or Karin. So she's great for guild territory, especially raids, Dark Lord's Tower, pretty much anything. Just one of the best tanks in the game. And then next is Ice, which was part of the Denmachi collaboration, so you can't get her now unfortunately, but she has very strong team skills as well as a strong burst skill. She basically gives everyone a buff in crit resist, which is needed for the late game guild territory. Also, we have Aqua, who's kind of like a somewhat good healer, but she mainly provides team crit rate, team crit damage, and now she's giving to the team more crit resist as well. So she's really great in moist metas with like Vivian, like I said before. So all around good like support and healer. And next we have Efreet. So she's basically a strong fire elemental physical burst. So her damage is probably one of the best just right out of the gate. And after she does her ult, she creates a shield for herself, which is pretty useful. But basically, I would recommend everyone, especially beginners, get her because her damage is so powerful. And next up we have Ryu from the other Denmachi collaboration. So she is a mage that's great for stun lock teams. Her skill animation has multiple hits, so she does lots of damage, and has a long skill duration, so she's great for stalling. So anything that requires stalling or full mage team, she's really good at. Next up we have Megumin. She's kind of like a mage version of Efreet, so she has a strong burst active skill, but other than that she doesn't really provide much utility to the team, so that's why she's kind of lower on the A tier. But because she's so strong, that's kind of why she's up here and not anywhere lower. The best ones in B tier, starting from left to right, these are characters that are really close to A, clearly better to have than C, but I kind of put them in their own tier. They're definitely nice to have, but you don't necessarily need to max them right away. So you have Darkness. She can tank for the entire team by herself, but this depends on the situation. So against breath bosses, that won't work because she'll be taking too much damage. So in instances where you may have 1, 2, or 3 teammates getting damaged, that would be the ideal scenario for her to tank. Or if the boss is projectiles, then her debuff reduces their number of penetrations. Alright, next up we have is Irie. So Irie, pretty much the main shtick of her is that she reduces the damage that your entire team takes and increases their damage reduction. So basically she makes your entire team a little bit more sustainable while also just dealing a great massive amount of damage as a water warrior. The reason why she's not as high up as A, just because I think in today's meta you can survive without her. You have strong characters like Efreet, Megumin, Vivian, so you fill your DPS and tank roles there. And with the addition of Lugrant, you also have some more healing, and Ymir, you have more shields. So Irie kind of came out a long time ago, so she's kind of been outclassed by the newer characters. But overall, she's great for majority of content, raids, Dark Lord's Tower, and guild territory. Next up we have is Bell and Hestia from the Danmachi collaboration. They're really interesting because not only do they do a crap ton of damage, but their skill duration is very long. So it's perfect for stun lock teams or teams where you need a stall for your teammates' cooldowns, which was really prevalent in the last raid season. Not so much this raid season, but if you have him max rebirth, max transcended, then he's really powerful, but not as needed as some of those in S tier, so that's why he's down here. The next 3 are kind of there for elemental damage debuffs for raid. So these are characters that you'll definitely need for a raid if you want to maximize your raid damage. Or do they need to definitely be maxed out right away? No, but is their skill invaluable for the purpose of raid and getting that elemental damage reduction? Yes. Alright, next up are the C and D tiers. These are characters that are nice to have, and they can be good in a couple situations, but I'm trying to imagine can I play in today's meta and not ever even need them? And the answer to that is yes, or for the most part. So Theseus, he's at the top of this tier because he's great for newbies, as his skill, especially when it's an all warrior team, just greatly increases their damage capabilities and healing if you have Mia. But you can survive without him, and that strategy kind of falls a bit late game. Next up we have Kana. She's a really strong fire archer, kind of like Efreet. She just a ton of DPS, but doesn't really offer too much team utility. So I don't really find myself using her much nowadays, so that's why she's in C tier. Same with these 2 water archers, Artemis and Charon. Sure, their damage is really great. I may use them for some Dark Lord's Tower and guild territory, but that's pretty much it. I rarely ever use them in raid except for maybe 1. And so they are kind of substitutable. Next up is Khaleesi. So she's kind of a stun mage, great for stun lock teams, great for guild territory, as she provides lots of buffs to the team like damage, attack, penetration. But you don't really need her, or at least for most players at starting out. There's all these other characters that I would prefer you to get before you even get Khaleesi. Plus she's free if you spend any amount. I think she's an award for spending at least like 99 cents or something. Next up is Odin. She's one of the strongest stunners. Her damage or her ult always crits, I believe. But like I said, there's plenty of stunners up here for a stun lock team. Other than that, her damage isn't really that crazy compared to some of the other mages like Megumin, Ryu, and things like that. Ares is a unique warrior. He just is meant to dish out tons of damage, but doesn't really offer any team utility. And so he's great for all warrior teams if you're like farming. He might be useful for a Dark Lord's tower floor here and there. But really, other than that, he wasn't really used much except for maybe once in the last raid season. Then lastly, we have Athena in the C tier. Sorry, Athena. She's another stun mage. She provides a lot of great buffs to the team, like Khaleesi. She's great for all mage teams, as she greatly provides mage boosts. But other than that, she's nothing special. Her damage isn't that great, and you gotta have both damage and team utility to be up high. And then lastly is D tier. These are characters that they may be very good in one instance or two, but have I used them greatly in the last few weeks to months? And the answer is no. So Dark Lord, she's useful and great to have, but she's not, compared to everyone above her, I wouldn't say she's that needed. She's useful to have for some bosses that are dark type and maybe immune to physical, but other than that, she's just your typical, dark mage burst that provides some, offensive capability buffs to the team. Next up is Rosie, and all she pretty much does is she's like a one-trick pony. She uses her skill, which essentially makes your next teammate's skill, really strong. So that's useful in some cases if you need to burst something down real quick. But other than that, she doesn't provide too much utility. Dark and Belphegor, so they're both amazing in slasher mode. And other than that, I don't really use them for anything else. Sure, you might use Dark for some farming. And as for Belf, I don't really see her using her anywhere else. You might use her for an all-warrior team, but there's other better warriors for that, like Ares, or Irie, or Efreet. Next up is Lucifer. She's great in a very niche scenario where the boss may be a fire elemental type, and she will do bonus damage to them. So that may be like 1 or 2 Dark Lord's tower floors, but other than that, she doesn't really have any unique characteristics or skills. Pretty much just adds a crit rate buff to the team, so nothing special. Lilith pretty much just is there to buff Kayn, and because Kayn kind of sucks right now in today's meta, he might be useful for certain guild territories. That's the only time where I would use Lilith, and maybe in slasher mode. So because of that, I just have her down in D tier. And then lastly, we have Mary. So Mary is a leaf archer. She's really, really strong in some cases, but only against water enemies. But other than that, and maybe slasher mode and PvP, she doesn't really have much use anywhere else. So I find myself seldomly using her nowadays. I know I've ran through this fairly quickly, so I'll put a very descriptive description for each one of them in the video description below. So make sure to read that. That'll probably be more helpful. But other than that, thanks again, guys. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comment section below, and I'll get to them. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.